Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm back with my level 50 Duskmane Necrozma, but today there is a twist. I'm not going to be running the usual moveset of Ironhead and Sunsteel Strike. Instead, I'm running a lesser known charge move of Outrage, and I'm looking to surprise some dragon types. The team I'm running is Palkia lead with Duskmane and Ho-Oh in the back. So the goal being, I can bait out dragon types that Ho-Oh doesn't want to see with the Duskmane, and then surprise them with Outrage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this surprise nuke move in action in the Open Master League. Hopping to the first match, neutral lead Palkia versus Duskmane. Opponent makes a bit of a surprising decision and they switch out of that lead. That lead is fine for Duskmane, but they switch out into a matchup that is substantially worse for them as they send in the Avalugg. I could send in Duskmane here, but I'm expecting that my Duskmane will have decent play in the back. So I'm more than happy to stay in with Palkia, as Palkia is going to be able to do quite well here. Palkia will fire off the Aqua Tail. Not only am I able to force a shield, but I'm able to get them extremely low. They're going to fire off the Icy Wind, it won't KO. I'm going to get them low, but then right at the end, I'm actually going to stop attacking. Now this is going to set up a very nice farm down here for the Duskmane, as I'm going to be able to get 2 Shadow Claws instead of 1, which I would have gotten had I kept attacking. In the back is Zygarde, and this is one of the reasons why I was running Outrage. With Outrage, Duskmane Necrozma actually wins the zeros versus Zygarde, which is something that no other combination of charge moves on Duskmane is able to do. They don't build up to the Earthquake, they just go for the Crunch. They're probably looking to switch. In comes Duskmane, I send in the Ho-Oh, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. We've got a mirror in the next match, Palkia versus Palkia. Mine does have Best Buddy Boost equipped, which means I will always win charge attack priority in the mirror if my opponent does not have the Best Buddy active. And this opponent does not have the Best Buddy active, so I can just pick up the knockout and win lead. In comes Zygarde. Zygarde, a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to send in the Duskmane, because honestly, Duskmane is my best option of the two that I have in the back. This team is a little bit soft to Zygarde. I commit the shield, I end up getting baited, and for some reason, I have no idea why, I click Sunsteel Strike. I should have gone for the Outrage. Outrage does more here, but I was just so used to just going for the Sunsteel Strike. Opponent is going to send out Solgaleo, so now we have the battle of the new Lion versus the old Lion. Solgaleo will go for the Psychic Fangs. In this matchup, both are resisted, so Sunsteel is going to be the way to go. Sunsteel will connect, and that move just does not look resisted, my goodness. The good news is I'm able to bank an Outrage for later, and then send in Ho-Oh. The Incinerate KOs, I will be debuffed by the Psychic Fangs, but the nice thing here is my opponent is going to be stuck going for Crunch. Even though my defense has been debuffed, Crunch, especially when it does not get same type attack bonus, is not an amazing move. I am going to go for the Sacred Fire bait here, hoping my opponent will commit the shield, and they do shield, and that's just game over. This will just be a win. They're going to fire off their last second charge attack, but I can shield Brave Bird. The Brave Bird won't quite knock out, but it will put them in a range where I can combo play with the Outrage that I have on Duskmane. So the Brave Bird will connect, and here's the Outrage that I should have thrown earlier. So Zygarde gets massively overkilled by the Duskmane Necrozma, and I'm able to take the win. Terrible lead in the next match, Palkia versus Zacian. I'm going to save switch into Duskmane. It's actually a Snarl Zacian. Zacian will farm 1 past the close combat, and they're going to fire off their energy. They do go for the close combat. They send out Dialga, and this is very okay. My opponent should be at 9 Dragon Breaths, and I'm 4 off the second Outrage, which means I'm going to win the zeros here. I make it to the Outrage, and here's a fun fact. Duskmane wins charge attack priority over Dialga. Dialga wins charge attack priority over a lot of Pokemon, but not Necrozma. Necrozma is able to win the zeros. They are forced to waste all their energy, and now I just get a massive Ho-Oh farm down, and Ho-Oh up energy is just way too scary. Honestly, I was a bit reluctant to run it in a Palkia environment, but considering the goal of the team is to try and bait out Palkia, I thought it was worth the risk, and honestly, it put in a tremendous amount of work for me. In the back, it's going to be Mewtwo, and at this point, I mean, this is just game over. I can fire off the Brave Bird will be shielded, and I can send out the Palkia. They're going to be able to make double Psy Strike before I can make it to a Spatial Rend, but I can make it to the Aqua Tail, and the Aqua Tail, while it won't KO, will do enough, because it's just going to put them into Incinerate farm down range. So the Aqua Tail will connect, the Dragon Breaths are too threatening, it forces their hand, they're forced to fire off energy, and then I can just Incinerate everything down with the Ho-Oh. 1 Incinerate, goodbye Mewtwo, in comes the Zacian, Zacian will go for the Wild Charge. I have 2 shields. I should eventually use at least 1. So I shield the wild charge, and that game ends in a win. We move to the next match, going up against fellow content creator Junkus, leading Palkia versus the Shadow Ho-Oh. Shadow Ho-Oh, Brave Bird can actually threaten Palkia, but realistically in this lead, I'm probably going to be shielding anyway, and the Dragon Breath plus Aqua Tail do enough that the Ho-Oh has basically been neutralized. It's not going to be able to do much for the rest of the game. In comes Dialga, and I get to respond with Duskmane Necrozma. Necrozma, typically in this matchup, if you have Sunsteel Strike versus Dark Pulse, Sunsteel Strike will be the way to go, but Outrage actually does do more damage than Sunsteel. So I'm able to land the Outrage, which is terrific. The Roar of Time is going to do a ton of damage here. Roar of Time does about 50% of its total HP. I can barely make the last second Outrage right before I get farmed down. The Outrage is going to be no-shielded, and in the back, it is Yveltal. Yveltal, a bit of an interesting Pokemon, a Pokemon that I ran quite a bit many seasons back. Unfortunately, it's definitely tougher to run in the current environment. Even though stuff like Necrozma is out there, neutrally, it struggles quite a bit. I'm going to farm up, watch for the catch. There's the catch attempt. I can bank 100 energy, snipe with Palkia, and at this point, there's just no winning this game, unfortunately, for my opponent, just because Yveltal is a little bit disappointing neutrally, so I'm going to farm up quite a bit of energy, and I can just very safely spam out Aqua Tails. And I believe in this one, my opponent realized, yeah, unfortunately, there's just no winning this one, so they are just going to save their shields, and that will end in a win. Hopping to the next match, ooh, terrible lead, Palkia versus Xerneas. I'm going to farm up a little bit and send out Necrozma. Opponent responds with Landorus. This is very playable. Honestly, not too upset about baiting this out. Opponent will fire off the Sandseer, that does a lot of damage. This matchup is slightly better for Duskmane if you are having the Best Buddy boost equipped. I do have my Duskmane Best Buddied, but I have the Buddy boost currently equipped onto the Palkia. I make it to the Sunsteel with a fraction of HP remaining. Lando is going to win charge attack priority, and I'm going for the Sunsteel. If they let this go, this will almost KO. The Sunsteel connects. It's a simultaneous KO. I think if I have Best Buddy boost equipped, I live that on 1 HP, and now it's a 50-50 choice. I wait. I send in the Palkia, and if you notice, I actually clicked on the Ho-Oh, but I clicked on it too late. And clicking on it too late ends up giving me the win. I waited too late. I thought they were going to bring in the Xerneas. They did not. So, by a little luck of the draw, I end up taking the win. In the next match, opponent switched out of a Palkia mirror, and they send in Zacian. So the odds are this is probably going to be a Palkia double fairy team. Without Dark Pulse as a slightly cheaper move, this matchup does get uncomfortable. My opponent is going to commit the shield, but as we see, they're doing a very good job of over-farming quite significantly before they move their defense to -4. This means that I'm not going to be able to keep switch. However, if I can just shield once and farm down, Ho-Oh's energy is very, very valuable. I'm expecting they're going to have another fairy, so this could end up being a bit of an interesting gambit. My plan here is I'm going to Brave Bird and then not switch. Opponent may expect me to switch and blind Q it, and they do. They switch the Bulu into the Ho, expecting me to instantly switch into the Palkia, but I don't switch out. They get completely bamboozled. And a game where after losing switch, I should have just instantly lost, I'm able to win. We have our target acquired in the next match. They send Palkia into the Duskmane. The Outrage gets shielded. No, they respect the damage. Oh, that is absolutely heartbreaking. Oh no. They're going to go for the Aqua Tail. They're going to make another Aqua Tail as well. And I think I'm just going to let this go. I'm just going to go for farm on my Palkia. My Palkia, up energy, can put in some very nice work as my opponent is unable to make the Spatial Rend. I'm going to be able to Spatial Rend the Dialga, and then I just have to trust that my Ho-Oh will be able to do well in the back. So I'm going to fire off the Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend is going to connect. In comes Ho-Oh, and it's a simultaneous switch Ho-Oh into Hisui Avalugg. Up a shield, this is quite good for Ho-Oh. It looks like it ends up being a CMP tie. I'm going to fire off the Sacred Fire. They shield, and I'm expecting them to Icy Wind. That's the only reason you shield. So I let it go, and they Rock Slide. And now it's my turn to get bamboozled. That shield to me telegraphed that they were going to go for the bait. So I call the bait, but I get hit with the nuke, and I just lose with 2 shields up. Oh, man. We had such a big brain win in the last match, and in this match, we just kind of throw it all away. All right, great lead in the next match. Palkia versus Giratina. They save switch into Zacian, and I get to respond with Duskmane. Again, this is a situation where you definitely prefer to have Dark Pulse, just because due to the faster pacing, after they debuff themselves, Dark Pulse can KO. But my opponent isn't going to play this in an optimal way. What they do is they actually throw the back-to-back wild charges. What we saw the opponent do last game, or 2 games ago, that was very difficult for me to deal with, was they threw 1 wild charge and then they farmed back up to 2. So that way they were only taking Shadow Claws at -2 defense instead of -4 defense. Whereas because my opponent threw their double wild charge instantly, I actually farm all the way down and leave with 100 energy. So an important thing if you are going to be the Zacian going up against Necrozma, to play it out that way. I'm expecting they're going to have a fairy in the back, so I go for the Sunsteel Strike just in case they catch it. And there it is, it's the Xerneas. We get to hard counter them with the Ho-Oh, and the opponent will concede the match. Tough lead in the next match, Palkia versus Zygarde. Typically, I'm just going to be firing off my Spatial Rend and then looking to switch. They go for the crunch, that's fine. I can throw 2 Dragon Breaths to Spatial Rend and then switch out. But unfortunately, the game stutters like mad. I'm finally able to catch back up and throw on good timing, but I've lost almost my entire Palkia. That's really not great. I'm going to send out Necrozma. Opponent is going to send out Landorus. Landorus will fire off the Sandsear Storm. I'm going to let this go, and then I'm just going to be firing off the Sunsteel Strike. This is -1, but it will come very close to knocking out. Sunsteel Strike is able to land. Look at the damage. Oh my goodness. They're going to make a last-second Sandsear Storm on 1 HP, but this sets up a very nice Ho-Oh farm. The issue for Ho-Oh is going to be, I was going to say the Zygarde, but there's another thing in back that Ho-Oh really does not want to see. With Palkia in the back, unfortunately, this game is just a loss. If my Palkia still had a little bit more health, this game could be playable, because a couple extra Dragon Breaths landing on their Palkia could put them into Brave Bird range, but unfortunately, I'm not going to get that opportunity. So I will go for the Brave Bird. The Brave Bird will connect. I can't even farm down the Zygarde, and even though I'm able to get the Incinerate down, the Palkia is not in Brave Bird range. So even a Sacred Fire bait doesn't save me here. I'm still playing this out, but in the back of my mind, I know that this game is going to be over. And I'm going to make the last second move on 1 HP, but if I was able to switch out earlier in that lead matchup, then saving a healthier Palkia could have potentially led to a different outcome, but unfortunately, my Palkia was too low, and that game will end in a loss. We have another Palkia mirror. This time we're both Best Buddy boost equipped, so it'll be a coin flip, and it looks like I actually win the coin flip. That's very, very nice for me. I fire off the Spatial Rend. They're going to let that through. They send out Xerneas, and I'm going to send out Necrozma. In comes Landorus, and I should be in a pretty nice position here. They're going to be firing off the Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm is going to connect, and I'm looking to farm up. I'm expecting they're going to shield, so I will go for the Outrage. Outrage, not going to be enough to KO. Like, it's not going to hit nearly as hard as Sunsteel Strike, but it is slightly cheaper. My opponent, in attempting to go for the farm down, lets me make it to another Outrage. The Outrage, they double shield it, so they have a ton of energy on the Landorus. I'm going to send out Palkia. Palkia, I should be able to double shield and make an Aqua Tail, so I'm expecting that they're going to force shields and try and send in the Xerneas, but if they do, they just instantly lose. Because I can bring in Ho-Oh, undercharge a Sacred Fire, farm down, they realize there's just no winning that game, so they will resign the match. Hopping into the final match, and I believe this battle was actually taken from stream. The queue times, even though I did top left 10 games before I played these battles to try and get better queues, were still quite rough during these sets. But then again, it is Master League close to the leaderboards, so that will unfortunately happen. But Palkia vs Avalugg is a great lead. They can Icy Wind me. I'm looking to farm up and throw after an odd number of Dragon Breaths, so I am throwing in the middle of their Powder Snow. The Aqua Tail is going to connect. Here, I'm just going to play to the CMP tie, because I know that I can win Charge Attack Priority, and forcing a shield here would be incredibly nice. So I forced a shield, and then I'm just going to hard switch into Duskmane. They go for the harder hitting Rock Slide. In comes Duskmane. In comes Zarude. And Zarude down a shield is not a counter to Duskmane. Watch this. I'm full sending the Sunsteel Strike. Sunsteel Strike nearly picks up a one-hit KO. Zarude is a very, very bulky Pokemon in the Master League. It doesn't quite get the KO, but this is going to set up such a beautiful farm down for Duskmane. Duskmane is going to get to burn both shields, but fully farm down and exit with so much energy. What is that final Pokemon? Now that we have got Zarude out of the way, and it's going to be Landorus. Landorus going to be hit with the Sunsteel Strike. Sunsteel Strike would pick up the KO, so they will commit the shield. I farm up, I go for the catch, I don't get the catch. Opponent, they throw their energy. They could have farmed more here, but they only farm up to 8, which means I can throw 1, wait a turn to make sure they don't catch, and that's goodbye Landorus. 1-hit KO with the Sunsteel Strike. In comes the Avalugg. In this game, we don't even need the Ho-Oh, and we're able to take the win. All in all, I had a ton of fun with this team. This team definitely feels like what's going to be a top meta team to watch out for in this new updated Master League meta. Obviously, many of the meta players are the same, but with the 2 forms of Necrozma, there's going to be a bit of an adjustment. Specifically, I'm expecting that stuff like Quick Attack Zacian is going to see a bit of a fall just because Quick Attack not as good against the Necrozma forms. And I am expecting that we could honestly see a bit of a reemergence of Ho-Oh, just because Ho-Oh, at the very least, has neutral play into Dawn Wings and can hit for super effective into Duskmane. And Duskmane is a real pain to deal with if you don't have a type advantage against it. Overall, I think Outrage is a very viable moveset on Duskmane. It does make your pacing worse, so there can be some situations where having that worse pacing can definitely be a bit unfortunate, but if you're specifically trying to bait out Palkia, I think it's a pretty decent idea. On top of that, it does give Duskmane a better neutral move in matchups like Dialga, for example, where if you're running Dark Pulse and Sunsteel, Sunsteel actually does more damage and is more efficient than Dark Pulse, whereas with Outrage, Outrage just straight up does more damage, which is awesome. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.